let's get started with this Idaten Deities talk podcasty kind of thing. I mean, it's not really going to be like a weekly podcast thing. It's just going to be a thing where we talk about a show in particular that we both watched last season. Idaten Deities, Know Only of Peace. I believe that's the full title. And here we have Denri, and I'm Wolfborg. You all know me. And what we're going to be doing is talking about this shit, right?
Right. You are correct.
That's cool. That's cool. Amazing. Cheesy intro done. Now let's get right into the news, as the kids say. So, Idaten Deities. Let's just get started with the premise here, okay? The basics of it is just that it's these god characters called the Idaten versus these demons that have been in this like 100-year war kind of thing, and humans are kind of caught in the crossfire. The background story of it was more something like humans were being killed by demons all of a sudden, like 800 years ago, and they kept praying for help, and that gave birth to the Idaten, which are like battle gods, and then they showed up, defeated the demons, sealed them away, and then they were just no demons for like 800 something years. So this current generation of Idaten that exist in this world, that have been born through these prayers from people, they don't really get involved with too much because there's no demons around, and they're only really meant to deal with demons. They don't actually give a shit about the human lives or like the problems that they have with their own wars. They're not there to deal with that. So they're not meant to deal with that. And so they just kind of like exist, just kind of waiting, I guess, because they're meant to be there to watch for in case the demons show up, but they haven't shown up for like 800 years. The seal hasn't been broken. They're worried that eventually the seal will break, but so far it hasn't been. And they're just kind of, I don't know, just existing with the humans, but like not with them. They're just like existing in the world, but not trying to interact too much with them. Aside from a couple characters, which we'll get into. But what were your initial impressions of the show?
Man, it's so hard to say. Like, right off the bat, the graphics and the art style really, like, spoke to me. They looked so interesting, and all of the color palettes are just constantly moving scene to scene, and you get this kind of pop art style, and that's super interesting and engaging to watch. At first, with the main character Hayato, I thought it was gonna be another, like, main character is really overpowered for no apparent reason other than anime trope. But, like, they still kind of have that, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And let's see. The opening. Oh my gosh. Do you have anything to say about the opening?
I love the fucking opening. The opening gets me hyped every fucking time. This show could have had the worst fucking writing ever and the most boring scenes. I would have watched it all just for that fucking opening. Holy shit.
Me too.
I mean, I get like that with most shows. If it has a good opening, I'll probably watch it even if I don't like it. This has happened a bunch of times, but it was nice in this case to where it was like super hyped and it was a pretty good show. And it like the music was actually like really on theme with the show because, okay, so the opening is called When the Weak Go Marching In or something like that. And it's like this kind of, it feels like a kind of like war march kind of thing, or at least parts of it do. I think the beginning part's more like this kind of, how do you describe, I suck at describing music, kind of like some EDM, kind of like pop-ish kind of thing. I don't know if I'm describing that right, but like it has a different kind of tone towards the beginning, and then it shifts towards like, all right, you have that drop happen, and you clearly know this is supposed to be some kind of like war kind of thing, and they do that. They add to it by adding these kind of like chant kind of things that slightly happen, and then show you the demons that are in there. And by the way, so people were talking about the opening in some YouTube channels that I was watching the opening from, and people were making very obvious observations about it, where you see the Idatens and they each like have their faces deformed in certain ways, or their bodies are deformed in certain ways, and they're supposed to be symbolic of like each character's personality. So like Hayato, like his face breaks into like Lego blocks and it's supposed to symbolize he's a blockhead. And then Yeasley his like face is like different, all these like layers of onions and shit or something like that. It's supposed to mean like, you know, he's not just what he is on the surface. He's like got a whole bunch of hidden shit going on, and I can't wait to talk about him because he's one of my favorite characters of the fucking show. Paula, I think, she had fruit inside of her. It's supposed to mean like she's really sweet, I guess, sweet and innocent. Yeah, she doesn't really do too much, I don't think, but if she's there, she's nice. And
she exists.
She does exist. And then there was, who was the other one? Oh, Rin was the one that I couldn't quite understand how to describe what she looks like in the opening. She's kind of almost like this, breaks apart into this matter that looks like it's fluidy liquid, but like it's also kind of like solid shapes. I don't know if it's supposed to mean like she's adaptable. She doesn't really seem too adaptable in the show, so I'm not sure if that really applies. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's a lot of this is supposed to show that these Idaten are made up of kind of different structures as well than the humans are, which is a part of one of their abilities that makes them pretty overpowered. They could survive without like their organs and shit. Like they could have a perfect circle drilled into their fucking chest where their heart should be, and they're perfectly fine. And this is something that like characters like Rin just don't know or care about why that works like that. They just assume, yeah, we're gods, fuck it. But Yeasley, who's like the more scientific, interesting character, is like, well, no, I kind of want to figure out how this shit works. I want to kind of live as long as I can, so it'd be pretty fucking important to learn this kind of stuff. And I guess he like figures out that they're kind of made off some different kind of matter thing. And this is something that the opening really shows off a lot of, where like they're breaking off into like spheres and like triangles and shit like that. It's pretty interesting. I really loved, especially in the opening, the cool psychedelic visuals they put in with the demons that show up. Mm-hmm. I was super surprised. They put Miku all over the opening, but she doesn't show up as like she kind of shows up in the second episode at the end, but like she's not really there until like episode 6 or 7 or something like that. She's not really there. But the opening made her seem like she was going to be like the main villain, which is why the first episode, I thought that priestess girl, I thought she was going to become Miku in some weird way. That's what I initially thought. But we'll get into that once we get towards the end of the first episode. The opening is fucking awesome. Apparently it's done by the same, it's done by the artist who was also a part of the, I forget the name, the group that does the Mob Psycho openings. That singer is a part of that group. So I guess that makes a lot of sense to why it has all these weird psychedelic visuals that kind of remind you of Mob Psycho as well. So, yeah, I fucking love the opening. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I do. I love the fucking opening.
Same page. We are on the same page.
It's so good. That's one of those songs where I'm going to keep listening to it over and over on loop until I get tired of it, which I hope never happens, but probably will. That's usually how it goes. Yeah, my initial impressions of the show were, I thought, this is mostly based on the first episode, thought it was going to follow a kind of predictable premise, but it was going to look really cool, right? Mm-hmm. Visually, right off the bat, this show is like really interesting with how it keeps throwing the colors all over the place. I've been yelled at by people on 4chan, or not yelled at directly to me, but I've heard people yelling on 4chan about how color theory is a thing that they don't really give a shit about in the show. I'm not an artist, so I don't really know the rules of color theory, but apparently what I think to be them doing really cool, like shifting of colors and stuff like that, I think is awesome. Apparently I'm wrong because it's not following basic rules of color theory and looks like shit to I guess, some people that notice this stuff, I guess. So I guess if you know things about color theory or an artist, you might be annoyed by that. I thought it was pretty cool. Maybe that's just ignorance, but I thought it made it pretty interesting. I liked the visual style that we went with overall, along with the awesome animation that happened for the fight scenes. The only problem with it is that it kind of made it look like a kid's show in a way, even though it's definitely not. This is not a show you should show any children at all, in any way, shape, or form. And it does, to be fair, unlike Crunchyroll, it does have like a mature content warning, but you'd have no clue why it's there really fully until like the end. I mean, there's kind of like Rin beats the shit out of Hayato like pretty quickly in the episode, and there's like blood everywhere and sound effects with it, but like it's not like anything too worse than what would be in other shonen, like battle shonen, I'd imagine. But that last scene of the first episode would definitely be a reason why you should not show this to any kind of kids ever. So, all right, let's just get right into the first episode. This one I think is the main one we're going to talk about the most for a particular episode, I'd guess, because it kind of is a big thing that I want to talk about. Because when you're getting somebody into the show, you really want there to be a really, really good first impression, right? And I don't know about you, I thought this episode was not a very good first impression.
Yeah.
This is
I definitely agree.
This is not at all a first impression that I would like show to someone and say, yeah, this is awesome, just watch one episode, you'll get it. No, I would say like you'd have to watch at least like the second episode. The end of the second episode is what really got me hooked into wanting to finish this for the season. Had I not made it there, I would have just assumed it was the basic plot that I thought it was based on the first episode, where, okay, so you start off with a backstory about the demons versus the Idaten, and Rin was from the first, or maybe not the first generation, but she was from the initial generation of the story, and where all the other Idaten she knew sacrificed themselves to seal away the demons after they defeated them. So they seal them away in this like island kind of tower thing on like a weird desert structure thing. And so 800 years have passed since then, and Rin has now been training other disciples of Idatens that are born on occasion. So the Idaten are like born through like prayers and thoughts of like the people on the world. They have to like require there's like rules for how the Idaten are created. There has to be like people who pray or like want or need some kind of Idaten to be born to like save them. There has to be like enough of it, and then I think like a certain amount of time has to pass. And then these like orbs appear, and Idaten can like pull them out of the orbs earlier, but otherwise it'll just be a couple hundred years and they'll just be born automatically anyways. And they're like given these like forms and shapes based on the thoughts that they were born with, and like I think certain abilities and traits based on that as well. So like Paula was, I guess, partially born from the thoughts of birds, so she could speak to birds. That was canonically a thing that happened. Also, she has wings, but they're like only visual. She can't actually use them. Which I was like, okay, this is, I guess, information that we got. I don't really know how Paula's character doesn't really do much other than exist and be.
She is the anime titties in that show.
Which, by the way, yes,
she is Snow White with boobs.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely, and they don't show it in the anime at all, but there's a chapter in the manga, which I read the manga. I couldn't read I looked at the webcomic, but the webcomic's not translated. But the manga has a bonus chapter, I guess, of Paula in like a bath scene where like Rin and Yeasley, or not Rin, Hayato and Yeasley are talking about like specific other like rules that impact the Idaten, and it's not in the anime at all because it's just Paula's tits the whole time. That's all it is. It's just her tits, which they don't look good. I don't. So okay, this series is created by two main authors, Amahara, who wrote Interspecies Reviewers. But I believe this was But I believe this was their first work. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe this was their first work. So you have the Interspecies Reviewers writer, so you already know you got to get that element of it. But then you also have the Dragon Maid artist, or the Dragon Maid creators doing the art for this, mainly the character designs, and so I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen their like art before of like nude characters before, but it does not look good at all in the Idaten Deities manga. It just doesn't. People were upset. People were upset that they like censored it or whatever, or toned it down in here. I'm kind of glad because it looks like fucking disgusting in the manga.
You're making me so curious here, Wolfborg.
Yeah, look it up right now. We'll get your thoughts live on the.
What do I even Google?
Hold on, I have a link at the bottom, actually. There's a link at the bottom of the document.
Thank you.
I got you. I got the goods.
Can I just say, when I first saw Yeasty?
Yeasty boys.
Shit, how do you pronounce it?
I believe it's Yeasley. I believe it's Yeasley.
Yeasley. God, it reminded me of, I haven't seen it in forever. Who is that green character from that anime we watched together?
Green character.
Go? No.
Am I gone from Hunter x Hunter?
Yes, Hunter x Hunter. I was getting like green person vibes and I was like, I don't like this.
Oh, because of his outfit. His outfit was also
Yes.
great, I think, and he had like a spiky hair. Okay. They're very different characters, but I could totally see it with the outfit he wears.
Definitely. Like, we don't have to keep this in the podcast, but do you remember when we watched Hunter x Hunter? And the only thing I could first start talking about was how I hated Gon's green attire.
Listen. He's doing his thing, okay? He's doing his thing. And like so like in this chapter they're like explaining like, why do we wear these clothes? Like, and it's like, can we change them? He's like, yeah, you can, but it's like based on your thoughts or something like that. And they decide to, I guess, wonder why Paula's taking a bath with her clothes on, and then they start thinking about that. And then they start like wondering like whether or not it feels natural to just bathe while naked because they're gods and they don't understand that that's normally what like humans do because their clothes aren't literally part of their matter. But for them, their clothes and accessories are a part of their matter. So like Yeasley's glasses, if he loses them, they come back when he regenerates his parts. That was like a thing. But I guess they can just take off their clothes or like change them, but like it's like a mental thing for them. They have to change like their form a bit. And yeah, it just does not. I think at least they look like weird inflatable like fucking balloon tits that like just look really awkward on her. But that happens. You don't really get too many of these kind of nude scenes in the manga as much. Like they're pretty much the same here as in the anime. The only, I guess, cases where it happens is in that bonus Paula scene, which is not in the anime. You get the one where they, how do you pronounce her name? We have to establish how to pronounce her name. Piscarlet? Piscarlet?
Pissalet?
Pissalet?
Pissat?
Pissat?
Piscalet? Piscalet? Piscalate? No.
How do I not?
Let's just call her Pisca. Pisca? Does that work?
Hold on. Let me see if I can.
Pissalat? Piscalat? Pissalat.
I think in the manga they translated her as Pissara, which I think is easier to say. Piscalat. Pissara? I don't know. I'm going to say Pissara. Whatever. I mean, I think she's one of my favorite demon characters just from a design-wise. Just because especially like when she was evil, I thought she was like way fucking hot in that form. Like long blonde hair, evil fucking face with this like war outfit. It looked fucking. I liked her. I liked her design a lot. Then they like. Well, I don't want to get into that too early. It's way too early to talk about when she changes. So okay, so where were we at? We were talking about. There was a reason why I was bringing up Piscalet. I don't know. Great podcast. We're very good at this. Okay. So we're still talking about episode 1. So you know, we open up this show with the backstory about the Idaten and the demons, and how all these years later, Rin is training Hayato, who is one of the newer Idaten. He's not the newest. The newest one is Paula, who's so new that she doesn't know anything really and has to have things explained, which is really just a tool for us, the viewer, to know what's going on as well, which is fine. I just wish she kind of did anything else too, but so we open with Hayato and Rin kind of sprinting really, really fast around the world. This is like an exercise they commonly do, is just run completely around the world. And one of the reasons for it is because Rin wants to watch for any Idaten orbs that appear so that they can bring more Idaten into their group. But it usually takes like hundreds of years for those to be formed. So they don't really find any for like a while. And Hayato will like talk shit to Rin about like how old she is, because technically, even though these characters will look like kids, they're like hundreds of years old, and so like, and they're gods, so they can understand that. But like, you know, from us looking at them, like they just all look like fucking kids. But Hayato will talk shit. Rin will beat the fuck out of him to like a bloody mess to where like he could barely walk, because that's actually a part of the training. Apparently for Idaten, because they don't really die, or at least none of them have died in the show. That they really like explain. Like I'm trying to get at, like, I don't really know how or if the Idaten can die, other than like sacrificing themselves for the seal, because it didn't really seem like it was possible, because we didn't see any of them die. So it was like they just seem like if you give them enough time, they'll regenerate. But like they could have their organs torn out, they can get completely pummeled, they can get like cut into like 50 pieces, and they'll still just be fine, I guess. I don't know. So I don't really understand the rules of how they regenerate too much. But I guess if you give them enough time and you haven't destroyed like maybe their brain or something like that, they're fine. And so after they're done like training and they give the basic backstory of the shit that's happening, and Rin's like, you gotta take this training seriously, Hayato, because the demons might show up. And he's like, bro, it's been 800 years, they're not coming. All right, we're good. And he runs out, meets up with Yeasley, who's the smart Idaten who doesn't really give a shit about the training that's going on with Rin, because he's not really meant for strength. He's more of a scientist kind of dude, and wants to learn about what the fuck the Idaten actually are and the rules of how they work, so that he can like survive longer. Because most of the time with all of these characters throughout the show, they're all just trying to survive. Some are doing that in way fucked up ways. Yeasley's one of them, but you don't really find that out until much later. Well, not too much later, but you find out just how fucked up he actually is later. The Idaten are not the good guys, by the way. They're not the good guys. But they're also not like the antagonists either. Like they're neither side is really the good guys. Both of them are fucked up and evil and just doing their own selfish shit. That kind of happens.
Chaotic neutral.
I guess, yeah. The humans are like not even good either. Because there's like entire like warring military empires, and then like also a religious terrorist cult. Those exist. I think the only one that's like okay is like the one that's supposed to be like the basic like capitalist place where like things are fine, it's like everything's normal, but like really we have these like fucked up other warring nations beside us, and we're probably also gonna get fucked up too. I don't know. Okay, so they meet up with Yeasley. Hayato meets up with Yeasley, and then later Paula. They meet up with Paula, and then Paula's like, "Hey, the birds heard that there's like big green birds heading towards like Antarctica or something like that." And they're like, "Oh, those must be military planes. Those aren't actually birds." And it's like, okay, was her being born from bird thoughts just to convey this message through bird? Okay, that happened. Because it never really comes up again that she could talk with birds. It's just a thing that happened.
You're
for
right,
that one
actually.
And it's like, okay, I guess we'll just do this. So then they go to the North Pole or Antarctica, wherever the fuck this ice area. They go to ice area unknown, and they found out the Zobel Empire, which is like one of the three main human factions, I guess. The Zobel Empire is like doing some weird military excavation there, with the scientist dude who's going to be the main antagonist, Dr. Obami, which I thought was Obama at first, and I was going to be very confused. But his name is Dr. Obami. And so he's leading them to uncover he's leading them to uncover a frozen demon from all the years ago, and he seems to have knowledge about the demons from all these years ago, even though he's supposed to be like an old human dude. So naturally, usually hearing about that, he's like, oh, that's fucking weird. It's kind of impossible for him to know that. This is 800 years ago, so he must not be human. So we already know right off the bat, the main bad guy here is obviously not human, but you know, you're kind of confused with what he is, because he can't really be a demon, right? Because the demons are like the frozen things. They're like, when you look at the frozen demon in this episode, it's like a giant wild looking beast. And when they take him out, he immediately goes on like a big rampage. So then you're like, what the fuck is Obami? Because he can't be a demon. He looks like he's a human. But after they fight the big frozen demon, it takes them a little bit longer than it probably actually would have if this weren't the first episode. like man, later on, all their other fights go so quick. This one took so long just because it's the first episode and they want to establish the fight scenes, which is fine. I'm fine with that. But like, when you go to the later episodes, you're just like, why the fuck did it take him so long to fight this thing? What the fuck? This is like a joke. So you find out a couple things during the fight. One, the Idaten don't need their like vital organs to survive. They don't need a heart, because he easily gets like his chest completely pierced at some point, and he's perfectly fine without it. He's in a little pain, he says, but he'll live, I guess. You ever just get your fucking chest impaled and you're just like, I'll live. I'll just walk it off. It's fine.
It's just a scratch.
It's just a flesh wound. It's no big deal. So they beat the shit out of the demon eventually. They find out the demon actually can't regenerate because they, I think, pierce his heart. And they're like, oh, he doesn't actually recover. All right, so this fucker's dead. Well, that was a fight. That happened. And then Dr. Obami, in comedic villain fashion, is like flying off in a jet while like on an announcer thing, megaphone, saying, haha, fuck you guys. I got my data. Ha ha ha. I'm going to leave and defeat you guys later. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's cheesy, but that happened. And then Hayato's like, you know what? I could just catch up to that jet. It's kind of nothing. So he does, and he accidentally makes it crash. And he's like, oh, wait, fuck. Humans die from crashes, don't they? Maybe I did this wrong, which I thought was funny. It also showed like how they don't really give a shit about the humans. They're just like, I'm just going to do what I want just because why not? I mean, he was a bad guy anyways, so it didn't really matter to him, I guess. But so the plane crashed, but he turns out to like still be alive because he's actually a robot or in robot form there. And he does like a self-destruct button to completely destroy himself so that you easily can't like look through him. And meanwhile, like back at the main site with the demon body, they're closing up pretty much the episode. You see like Yeasley is on a secret phone call with somebody to take away the body of the demon in secret, and like weird stuff's going on. And you can tell like Yeasley's up to some shady shit. He's up to some shady shit, and he might actually be like the main villain is what it kind of like, hints towards you at the beginning or something like that. I thought from the beginning with that kind of scene that it was going to turn out that Yeasley is actually like the main villain and probably a demon of some kind. That's what I thought. Because I don't remember if they explained this in the show. In the manga, they explained that, like, I think all the other Idaten were born from, like, one of the other Idaten finding them in an orb and pulling them out. Yeasley wasn't. Yeasley was, like, naturally born from, like, waiting a while. So, like, he just kind of came into existence, and I wondered if, like, he wasn't actually an Idaten, and he was actually, like, a demon or of some kind or whatever, which we find out later is, like, a thing that can happen, I guess, because we have these demons that are in this world now, but like they're not like the old wild demons. They're like half human, half demon looking things, which are, I don't really understand how they came to be. The second episode, the end of the second episode, explains that there are things that happen, but you don't really know too much from the start. So initially I had figured that Yeasley was the main bad guy, and that it was going to be some like weird shady thing where they have to fight against him. That's what I thought was going to happen. And he was going to use his knowledge. He's actually like manipulating the Zobel Empire into his control or something like that. That's what I thought. But that turned out to not at all be the case. And it went off in kind of a very different direction than I thought from the second episode. Like, it went off really differently. What did you think the show was going to be from the first episode?
Oh man, so I kind of thought it was going to be classic overpowered main character, like establishes ultimate bad guy, classic just fighting until good guys win type of thing with like maybe a bit of a power struggle and blah blah blah. I really didn't think it was going to be all that story driven just by how much effort they were putting into the fight scenes. But then when they did everything with Yeasley, that's when I was like, oh, okay, like there's some plot dimension here. Like Paula might be a complete waste of a character, but at least they're doing something with the other characters. Okay. But I really tend to like kind of paranormal and like psychological driven animes. So when they started to show Yeasley as like this kind of mastermind, I was getting more into it.
Yeah. So like the first episode does not give you a good like idea of what the show is going to be at all, in my view. You just think it's kind of like this generic like battle shonen thing, but has nice visuals, which might be enough to get people interested. Until you get to the very last scene. The very last scene.
Are we going to talk about it?
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Okay. The very last scene of episode 1. Right after they defeat the demon in the frozen wasteland place, we then cut to, like, the Zobel Empire invading a village or some kind of big town or something like that. It's all in flames. Kind of to show you, it's meant to show you that the world is not actually at peace like the show or the demon, or the world is not actually at peace like the Idaten might think it is. As far as they're concerned, it's at peace from demons, but it's actually like totally fucked from humans at war with each other, which, like we already understand with the premise of the show, they're not meant to get involved with the human problems, but the world is super fucked. And so to showcase how super fucked the world actually is to like the humans, it closes with this scene of the Zobel Empire, like some units from the Zobel Empire during their invasion, breaking into a church where there's like a priestess praying and then raping her. That happens. And it's like done.
Yeah.
It's done as also like a kind of sort of homage to A Clockwork Orange almost. It like feels, I don't know if have you seen A Clockwork Orange?
No.
So it's like a Clockwork Orange is like this this classic movie where like these people want to embrace, I don't know if I'm going to be summarizing the plot of A Clockwork Orange properly. It's like a big thing to digest, but essentially it's like these psychopath kind of like violent people who just do it just for fun. And then there's like some weird shit that happens with the movie later on where they try to like rehabilitate him with mind control or something like that, to where like anytime he has a violent tendency or some kind of bad thought, he's like, he just feels uncomfortable or something like that. I don't know. But it kind of pays homage to like the early scenes of that movie in this scene where like they're raping her to like this like cheerful sounding classical music and like these very visual, like colorful church window in the background while these silhouettes are moving and blood splattering everywhere. It's pretty fucking gruesome and like played in like a twisted kind of way with the like visuals of the scene. And people were in the comments of this show complaining about like, you know, oh, people are just too sensitive about this kind of scene. This scene makes it doesn't make perfect sense. This scene was very fucking awkward to be there at the end of this first episode. I can understand the point of like wanting to show how fucked the world is in comparison to what they might think, but there's a million other ways you can do it. This is not one of the ways that you should do it. It doesn't really help do anything except, I guess, establish that there are mature scenes in this show. But there was such a weird tonal shift that it just made a whole bunch of people not want to watch this anymore. And they really need to watch the second episode to get the interest in the show. The interest in the show was not from the first episode at all, I think. So that scene was like a big detriment to like this entire show's success, I think.
Yeah, it really subverted my expectations. Like, one minute you think you have the show all figured out and it's kind of interesting and leading you into different places, and you're like, ooh, I want to see what's up with this. And then suddenly it's a rape scene. And like, I thought they were gonna imply the rape a little more casually, but they skirted the line just a little bit more than what I thought they were going to. And I was kind of like, well, I don't know how I feel about that right now. Like, obviously, it's showing you that it's going to get a lot more dark and very, like, emotionally intense, and it's going to deal with very mature themes in the future. But I was just like, yo, I don't know how I feel about this right now. Like,
yeah, it's just, it didn't need to be there like that at all. And by the way, it's not there like that in the webcomic or the manga. That's not how that scene plays out. So in the manga and the webcomic, it plays out how it's supposed to. You don't see that rape scene until you see that invasion happen, which happens, I think, episode 3? I don't remember if it happened episode 2, but it definitely didn't happen at the awkward end of episode 1. Okay, the rape scene happens at exactly the part where like it's supposed to happen, which is, you know, you see it as an event that happens during the invasion, and you find out in like episode 2 that like this is one of the main incentives they have for like the Zobel army people to like join, I guess, is so the demons. I'm trying to think of the order I want to go with for this, but one of the main incentives of like joining the Zobel army is that you get to do like whatever the fuck you want while the battle's taking place, including like you can rape all the women you want or whatever, pillage, rape, whatever, while it's happening. It's when it's not when you're done, you can't do that anymore. That's like their main rule, I guess. You can't go raping the women afterwards because they need the women for the demon repopulation plan. So they decide to make it like an incentive where like you could do as much of it as you want, however you want, while we're invading. But after that, you can't. So they make it like a big thing. And what like her Pisara's like speech to like motivate them into like going to invade is like, what do you want to take? What do you want to do? Who do you want to like rape or whatever? And then they'll just shout whatever. And then they'll shout out some real fucked up shit too during that. They're like, I want to fuck like a little boy or something like that. And she's like, all right, well, I appreciate your candor, but You're very fired up. I appreciate that. But just make sure you only do it during the battle. Once we're done, you can't do it anymore. So, all right, go on, have fun, boys. This is pretty much like how they get them out there. It's still kind of fucked up either way to show that, but like it makes way more sense to show that in that context, not in this random like jump at the end of the first episode, which feels so jarring that it has to be trying to compensate in some way for how like generic the rest of the first episode is. Because I will say this, at least it does make it stand out in that like you will remember it as that show with the awkward rape scene at the end for like fucking no reason. Don't know if that's like the best way to try to sell your show to people, but it's a way, I guess. I don't know. It's something. It definitely feels, I guess, on brand for Interspecies Reviewers fans to try to get into it just to spite people triggered over the scene. But again, this was not how it was originally like written and not where it was originally placed. It was like put there for the anime adaptation, and it has to be just to try to like let the viewer know, hey, it's not this generic battle shonen stuff the whole time. That has to be the only reason, but I can't help but feel like there's a million other better ways you could have done it, and that wasn't it.
Definitely. So. Yeah, they kind of dropped the ball with it, like right at the end there.
Yeah. So like, I have kind of that's not the only reason why a lot of people were turned off from the show, and this is one of the other big things I wanted to talk about. To where like the like kind of marketing for this whole thing has been kind of a detriment for it. Like if you look at the poster, the key visual for the show, it doesn't look like an adult show at all. It looks like a very like kids battle shonen thing from its visual style and like the generic looking poster that kind of conveys that kind of idea as well. There's like that footprint on the logo, which I'm assuming is supposed to mean like there's a lot of kicks. In my view, it just looks like a kind of like childish thing. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like putting that kind of shit in the like visual for the logo just kind of makes it look like a kid's show, or more like a younger viewer. I don't mean like young kids. I mean like, you know, teenage shonen like action thing. That's very like generic, not going to get too dark. I think another visual has like them all on Miku's tongue or something like that, which does make it look more mature. And I feel like they probably should have gone with that one instead. Especially because I'm sure they shoved Miku all over like the opening of stuff because they know she was going to be everybody's favorite character just from her design. Big titty fucking sexual waifu, who we'll get into a little later. Everybody I'm sure would dig her character. So like I was surprised they didn't go with that one as like the main key visual. The main key visual they did was like just showing every character in the like cartoonish art style. And not like even like the demons in their demon forms, I don't think. They're just kind of there in their normal forms. And you're like...
Can you like link me?
Oh, okay.
So I can see what you're talking about.
I'm talking about this.
Yeah. That literally, it doesn't tell you anything about the show.
It tells you there'll be kicks, I guess, because Hayato's foot is up on the screen. I don't know. It shows literally all the character designs, I guess, and that's it. And that's
I'm surprised Paula's boobs aren't taking up the vast majority of the poster, frankly.
I'm surprised Miku's boobs were kind of cut off in the visual. Like, and then like, wait, let me show you the other visual one. The other poster they had, which I think was like their earlier key art, looked like this. Which I think,
hell yeah, that looks way cooler.
Yeah, I think it looks a lot cooler, and it also conveys the idea that this might be a lot more sexual because like she's clearly naked and they're like literally all on her very long tongue or whatever. So it's like, okay, this is going to be a very mature show, even though these characters look like kids, but they're actually like gods or whatever. So like the visually with like their marketing stuff, the art style doesn't really, the color stuff doesn't really help with like trying to convey that this is a more mature kind of like, this is supposed to be a seinen, I think, but it doesn't look like a seinen at all in any way, shape, or form, or at least doesn't like give you that feeling of it, especially not from the first episode. The second episode more so once you get into like the demons in their meeting. And that's really where the show kind of has a turning point to me, is the end of the second episode. It has this, the meeting with all the different demons, and you can tell that, like, at that moment, you realize and learn, because you already see, like, earlier in that episode, Pisara is clearly, like, some kind of superpowered person, but you're not really sure yet if that means she's a demon or something like that, or if she's just, like, a robot like Obami or something like that. But you figure out towards the end of the episode that they are demons. And to me, that's like a super interesting turning point, because not only have the Idaten been like waiting for these hundreds of years for the demons to come back, thinking that the world is, you know, they might be at war with each other, but they're at peace from demons. Turns out they're not actually protected from the demons. The demons have actually been back for like hundreds of years already. They just haven't known because they're hiding among humans now and using the humans' like taste for war to like kill them off and like start to repopulate. And I thought that was like a super interesting concept that made it way more interesting. And that was before we even got into each individual demon character and their different like abilities and designs and stuff like that. So I thought that was like a really great turning point. And then we also got to see like Dr. Obami. Like, I thought he was just going to come back immediately in his human like body again. He goes through stages to like build back his body, I guess. First he's like,
yeah, I love that.
What was he? First he's like some kind of like mop or like cleaning device with like his photo like taped to the it's like, I think another point he's like a plant. I don't understand what that was about, but it was, yeah, it was funny, it was cool, it was nice. We meet all the demons. We meet their different like roles in the Zobel Empire, and we see that like they're the ones that have been waging this like big war. We learn that there are like hundreds of demons that are alive, and they're using the humans to like give birth to more demons, but like they're more tame demons with like extra abilities because they're like combined with humans. But to do that, they need to like mass produce more humans to like merge them with demons. And so they keep like all the women that they end up like taking from their pillaging, they will like put in this like prison maternity ward thing, and then like forcing them to give birth to more babies, and then training those babies to either become soldiers for them or to merge with other demons. And so they kind of perpetuate their like species through war and through doing that kind of stuff. But they've been trying to keep themselves hidden from the Idaten. But that's not so much the case anymore. They kind of know that they exist now after the frozen demon incident, where Yeasley found out. And once Yeasley found out, they're pretty much fucked. Everybody else finding out, they're too dumb to like really care. But Yeasley finds out, and that means that they know, and so they're super fucked. So like if Rin saw that going on, she would just be like really confused, kill it, and then go home and then not care. Because they don't really care to look into this stuff. They just care to like. They're very simple-minded, very straightforward. Her, Paula, and Hayato are like all like that. But Yeasley, and then later on Prontia, who we keep hearing by name for like a few episodes and then eventually meet. Prontia is kind of... I'm trying to... Like, is Prontia smart? Not as smart as Yeasley, but like he's got some like abilities... And he's like kind of Yeasley's like apprentice, even though Prontia's older or something like that. I'm kind of confused what Prontia's role is.
Yeah, he's almost like a mentor in certain ways, but he's also quite smart, quite perceptive, but not as much of a deep thinker as Yeasley is. So he kind of actually works in their little, I don't know, trope of gods, I suppose. Except for his shoes. Those shoes are not working for me.
He's wearing the cloud shoes. He's down to cloud.
It took me a long time to clock that he had these ridiculously long shoes. I think my brain was just blocking it out for whatever reason.
I thought he was wearing a very weird Ronald McDonald outfit at first for some reason. I don't really know what the fuck was going on with his design, but he's a thing. He exists. He exists from the thoughts of clowns, maybe, for all we know. I don't know. But he's like smart with like physical abilities, and he like trains Hayato and Paula whenever they show up and meet with him. But he's also like to do like these weird experiment kind of things as well. So like I think when we first meet him, he's experimenting towards like what was it, like electric car racing or something like that. At some point he was like researching how to like terraform places, and he fixed like a whole nation that Rin had originally set up as a shelter but fucked up the design of, so it was like filled with a whole bunch of horrific like disasters that would keep happening to it. And because Prontia showed up one day, I was like, I'll fix it just for the meme, and then he's now revered as a literal god in that nation as a result.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. They worship him. They literally prayed to him, and he's just like, yo, what's up?
He was just going on a walk one day, and now they're just like, oh god, our lord, our lord. And that whole thing, that was the nation of Sarabale, I think. Something like that. And they became a huge religious cult kind of group in the modern day. Because and Yeasley and Paula at some point meet up with this nation to try to convince them, hey, if we take out Zobel, we don't want you to go at war with Hotena, which is like the consumer fucking modern kind of city that doesn't seem affected by the war. They're like, we don't want you going to war with Hotena as soon as we take out Zobel. Zobel's infested with demons, we got to take them out, but when we do it, we just want to make sure you're not going to destroy Hotena. Which I thought was kind of weird that they went out of their way to try to set up. Because throughout the show, even Yeasley was trying to like explain this. They're not supposed to give a shit about like the humans outside of like making sure they don't die from demons. They're not really supposed to give a shit. But it's very clear that Yeasley is slowly becoming like the shadow leader of like all the factions, pretty much. Because Prontia is revered as a god in Sarabale, and Yeasley is pretty much seen as like a mentor for Prontia in a way. He pretty much controls Sarabale, and then he also is kind of the shadow leader in charge of Hotena. And after they invade the demons in Zobel, he now controls Zobel as well. And it's like, okay, you're clearly like trying to just interfere with the human lives yourself, but maybe it's just more of like he just wants power in secret kind of thing. But with Sarabel, what's interesting when he talks with them is he's like, all right, you guys have been using our name to like inspire all your like wars and like propaganda shit for years. We've never asked for any of that. We know you've been doing that. I don't really give a fuck that you've been doing that, though. In fact, it's actually pretty good that you're doing that, he says. And I thought that was pretty interesting because he was like the first leader who actually just like meant for their nation to pray for Prontia. They all started dying of starvation because they weren't like doing anything meaningful or like weren't actually focused on surviving or using these knowledge of the gods to their advantage to try to inspire their people to do things. They just kept trying to pray for like Prontia to save them, which doesn't help. That's not what they do. They don't do that. But to be fair, the humans don't really know that. But when these like newer leaders come around for this religious group, you're like, okay, these guys are corrupt. They're clearly just lying about what their gods are saying for their own personal gain. In reality, they're also doing it to help make sure their country survives or their nation survives. So in Yeasley's view, he doesn't really mind, and he actually thinks it's a good thing that they're doing that, in that it's smart to do that, because otherwise their nation would probably just die out, or like their people would like suffer. And so I thought that was an interesting perspective that they added with that, because it's like people always think that, you know, religion's like it can be an evil tool used to like lie to people and trick them into doing some stuff when like in reality nothing's really being said at all to them. They're just being tricked. But in the end, I guess if it's meant to like make sure people live, that can be a good thing. It can be a little bit morally weird when it turns to like, all right, we have to kill these people so that we live. Okay, that can be a little weird because now you're trying to say the gods want to establish peace by killing other people. But it's I guess it could be a thing if it turns out that other nation, like if it's Zobel, they're going to kill you unless you fight back. You can't just pray for them to go away. That's not really going to work. Which is something Giltina, who is the priestess character who got raped at the beginning, she constantly is doing. She's constantly like in prison and like praying for like help. She doesn't understand that like her prayers give birth to like the gods who can't do anything to help her because she's not in trouble from demons most of the time until like towards the end. Like humans aren't usually in trouble from demons, so whenever they pray for help from the gods, they don't really do anything. They're born and just don't do anything to help them because they're only there to stop demons. Oh.
That nun character, though. Oh, God. I don't know what order you want to do this, but can I just riff on her?
We can just jump all around the place. Go with it.
Oh, God. I knew she was going to be kind of annoying, but like based on the opening, I was like, oh, maybe they're going to make her like an evil nun or something like that, and she'll get more interesting.
I thought she was going to be Miku. That's what I thought she was going to be. Did I say that already? I thought she was going to be Miku.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, no. But I understand that they're trying to make her this like sheeple type of character where all she can do is just pray because she's really weak and she's super powerless, and then like her prayers eventually give birth to a new Idaten, whatever, and it's born in her image. But even that deity that is born from her is really fucking annoying. I don't like her character. I don't like her personality at all. It's just a wet blanket.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So like, I thought it was super interesting when we gave birth to my main gripe with her being also born as a god at the same time, I thought that was interesting because, you know, you have the one side who's like praying for a god and the other side who is literally her but is a god, while the like human side wishes she had the power of gods to be able to do things. Now there literally is a version of her that has the power of gods and can do things to help out more. I just wish they designed them differently. They look exactly the fucking same, and when they're right next to each other, I can't tell who the fuck is who. And when we're in like different scenes afterwards where it's each character, I can't tell who is fucking who unless one of them is flying. I don't have no idea.
And both their names are Gil.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even change the names. And it's like, okay, so you're both self-righteous. You both want the exact same thing. One of you just has superpowers. It does get confusing.
Yeah, I think one of my, like, the scenes that stands out to me about her character was during the invasion of Zobel. Prontia finds the human form of Giltina. I believe it's the human form of Giltina. Prontia finds the human form, and he was confused because he thought he just saw the like god form of Giltina, and then he finds out like, oh, this is a human version. And while they're talking, a like demon is like behind a rock or something about to attack, and so he instantly kills the demon, and she's like very upset with him over doing that because he just committed murder without like a second thought about it. And I forget the exact line. I think I wrote it down at some point, but it was like really interesting to where he's like, she's like upset because he just killed the demon without a second thought and like instantly and just like out of nowhere. And he's like, oh, would you have felt better if I like did a long drawn out battle with him? Like, would it have made a fucking difference? Like, he was clearly trying to kill you and he's clearly evil. Like, does it fucking matter if I took forever, if I killed him instantly out of nowhere? Like, what the fuck? And I think that goes to show like how fucking like you said, how self-righteous and like fucking ignorant like her character can be. And I thought that was like a big point with her character to where she was gonna like have to develop a lot, because we seen like I think the day afterwards she wakes up and she's just like, I want to be able to help, and she's like talking to Pisara, who's like really tired and trying to sleep. I want to be able to help. I want to do what I can to help with the recovery. She's like, can you do literally anything? Do you have any powers, abilities? She's like, well, I have the power of prayer. She's like, then you're fucking useless. You can't fucking help us with any of this recovery effort. Just go lay down or some shit. You're not gonna be very helpful here. And it's like, and she feels powerless over that, but it's like, yeah, you can't really contribute actively to some of this stuff. So what do you expect to happen here? Like, she really feels like she's like entitled to like be a part of things, even though like she's not really capable of it in a way. I don't know if that entirely makes sense, but like it's just it feels like she's trying to insert herself and find some kind of purpose for her when she like is questioning like everything after she realizes the gods are real and they're these like uncaring like beings who just want survival and like I guess the human race to not die from demons. But I don't know. It's just like, what do you do when you discover like the beings you've been praying to all these years are real and they're like not at all what you expected them to be, but they're what makes sense to be. Like it would make sense that it would make sense that these gods are like uncaring beings about the day-to-day lives of humans. They can't interfere with everything about humans to make sure everything is all fine and happy. They can interfere to stop the demons, but they're not like in charge of making sure that war never breaks out. That should not at all be their job. So it's like, what do you do when like the thing you've been praying for all this time turns out to be like exactly what you wanted, but it's not what you really wanted in a way, you know? And it kind of like, I feel like it didn't really have enough time to kind of show how that would develop her. Because you kind of get like that kind of idea inserted and then you just never really see her too much until like the final episode where like it's kind of confusing which one is the human and which one is the god. And they're doing some weird teaming up with like the demons, but not really. I don't understand it. Giltina was a character.
May she rest in peace.
One thing I will say was cool is her name. Well, what I originally thought was her name. I thought her name was Guillotina, but it's like Giltina or something like that. I thought it was like Guillotine, like Guillotina. I thought that would be a pretty cool name. But that sounds like a bad guy name. You can't really give that to the priestess. But no, yeah, I thought that she was going to eventually turn out to be Miku after like the initial rape scene. And then I thought she was going to discover what happened with the gods at some point a lot earlier. I thought some weird science thing was going to happen to where she becomes a demon and becomes Miku and then like becomes the main villain. That's what I thought was going to happen. I don't know if that would have been better, but I thought it would have been like an interesting like development, I guess. But I don't know. I think I was mostly just trying to piece together like, why is Miku all over this like opening when she doesn't show up until like 7 episodes in, really. I'm like, and then that's also the thing with the ending too. The ending has like the 3 demon girls, one of which you don't even see at all until like episode 9 or something like that. The like maid, the nurse assistant girl. I was like, who is this character? I haven't seen her at all. It took 9. I kept thinking it was like Nickel or something like that. It wasn't Nickel. It was just a random like nurse assistant that doesn't show up until 9 episodes. I'm like, what the fuck?
Let's talk about Miku.
Okay, yes, Miku.
Okay, she was my waifu, I will admit. She had me hook, line, and sinker, okay? She is this crazy, like, sociopathic demon who is a freaking dominatrix. She's hypersexual and she's completely shameless about it. And I was like, I vibe with that.
I knew you would.
But 100% Denri, yes. And I really liked that she was actually kind of a failure as a demon because she's not really strong, she is not powerful, but she makes up for that by being hyper perceptive. So you can like put her in front of a computer screen and she can like analyze things and get like micro movements and expressions and like completely figure out entire things that she wasn't supposed to know just based off this tiny bit of information. And I thought that was so interesting how they like made up for that with her. And she's this like super mind behind the demons, essentially, aside from the Dr. Obami character. And I was like, I really like this. I like where they're going with her to kind of have this Miku versus Wesley, Yeasley, whatever, type of like mind battle, almost like Death Note in a way. And then they drop the ball.
In what way? In what way?
When the demons all like scattered across the world to get away from the gods and to like, you know, get their population back up, and Miku's like, yeah, we have some Shota kids that we are going to breed with. And I was like, okay, well, maybe they'll just imply it. Maybe they'll just mention it there and it'll never be shown and I can forgive that. And it's like, no, you get scene after scene after scene where she's just like doing stuff with these Shota boys and it's freaking creepy. And I'm like, Miku, why? Why did you do this?
And it's like throughout the show, you know that the demons are supposed to be really fucked up and evil. Even if they're trying to like repopulate their species, you know that they're doing fucked up stuff. Like Miku's original job, she's the quote-unquote animal trainer. And what that means is whenever they take in some slave women, she's meant to train them into being sex slaves, to the point to where when the invasion happens and they save all the humans from the Zobel Empire, there's a large group of women who cannot do anything but sex work anymore because of Miku's training, and they like start protesting the laws of like the nation because of that, because they physically can't do anything else after Miku's had their way with them. Like you said, she's like super perceptive of things, and because of that she uses this as her way to like train the slaves, because like she can tell like, you know, what they're into, what their weaknesses are and stuff like that, what they like, what they don't like. Just like she's very, very perceptive with all that, to the point where like it makes sense for her to be the way she is. My one confusion is, what's the real difference between her and Barcode? Because like what is the point of Barcode? Barcode seems fucking like a worse version of Miku, because Barcode is also the kind of the same, where he's able to super process data, but the difference is Miku can like is actually perceptive of people and their like emotions, and she's very intuitive and stuff like that. She can understand where things are going and like predict them and like plot out plans for when they are happening. Barcode can like process data really quickly, and that's about it. And I was like, well, what's the difference between these characters here, other than like just Miku is better? Like, why would you want Barcode? I guess like if you have Miku already. What I thought was going to happen was I thought there was going to be a whole like bunch of demons like those two, where, you know, they're like these failed experiments on them trying to genetically modify what the demons are going to turn out as. And they're not physically strong. They don't have like a second form of wild demon form they can use, but they have these like super mental capacities. And I thought there was going to be a lot more of that, and there kind of wasn't. There's only really these two characters for that. And a part of that might just be because, you know, after the invasion, they didn't really have, you know, they're just scattered, and they're barely trying to like be able to reproduce their species, which is like, I guess, a part of it. And so they don't have the equipment anymore for that. But so they have Miku at some point. Like, they're like, all right, we need you to constantly analyze all of the footage we have. You're just going to sit on this couch here. You're going to analyze everything. And she starts like writing reports in a book and just leaving them on table for them to read about what she discovers and thinks is going to happen so that they can win the battle against the Idaten through all this information. So And at that point, I'm just kind of wondering, like, you know, first of all, why would we have her do that and not like Barcode, I guess? But like, I guess it makes sense for her because she's like able to predict like things that are going to happen later. Barcode seems to only be able to like just process data as it comes in pretty quickly, I guess, and that's pretty much the extent of his abilities. But Miku's like there processing all these things that are happening, predicting what's going to happen, has a pretty good understanding of like these characters, like just by looking at them and their expressions. Like, she can understand their mental capacities and like what they're going to do next and all that. And she uses this to her advantage. And at some point, she pretty much realizes, hey, they're going to invade soon. And we're pretty much fucked. I'm not going to be here when that happens. I'm pretty much the only chance we have of us like continuing to like exist as a species with my understanding of what's going to happen. So I'm going to just escape. I'm going to leave a note, a fake Miku behind with a note. So they don't know for a while that I left. I'm just going to escape. And she escapes with Umeo. I believe it's Umeo. She escapes with the pregnancy demon and the nurse assistant demon. She grabs them, she leaves, they escape while the invasion is happening, which the invasion is like an instant destruction of the Zobel Empire. As soon as the Idaten are like, okay, we're good to go to invade, it's like gone in like a couple hours. It was like not even a challenge for them at all. They just go in. Rin like cuts the entire empire in half with her sword. Like, all the buildings are cut in half. And you're like, all right, well, this is an easy invasion. The easiest, like, literally as soon as they're like given the okay to do it, it's just done. Zobel's just dead. And so they begin like, I think they convert Barcode to their side so that he's able to help them like process demons versus humans. But everybody else, they just kill. They just kill all the demons they can. They don't really need them because they already have. We haven't even talked about how Pisara is working. No, for them we haven't. Now. We'll have to get to that. But yeah, so. Oh God, we are jumping all over the place. Okay, so Miku is escaping with like these two assistants because they have this like ultimate plan to like bring things back later on. But for the invasion, they just kind of jump ship because they knew everything was screwed. They're not the only ones that jump ship. The demon queen or whatever, or the empress demon lady sent her like biological children demon out. Before, like, as soon as she knew like shit was going down, she sent them away. And so I think there was like 2 sons and 1 daughter, and she told them to bring somebody else with them, naturally, to propagate some more. So they each grabbed like a significant other, and then they left the place before everything went down, before the invasion happened, so that they could try to repopulate as well. So
yeah, the empress, her name's Brandy, I think.
Yes. I do want to stop before we talk about the Zobel invasion stuff a little bit more, I guess. I mean, I don't really know if there's too much to talk about with it, but there's a couple of things, I guess. But the one thing that we should talk about is Yeasley and Pisada, or Piscalat, however you say your name, the German-looking waifu demon girl. I'm assuming the Zobel Empire is supposed to be like the evil German nation. That's all I assumed watching it. So, At a certain point, while they were like trying to meet up with Prontia and plan what they were going to do next, Yeasley makes a stop by to his secret laboratory, which he established, I believe, in Hotena, in secret for all these years, with the scientists experimenting on looking into both the Idaten and the demons now that he's found a demon body. So they bring the demon body back there. They also, at some point, had killed Nickel and I believe G13 was the one, which is a reference to Golgo 13, I believe. These other two demons that they sent to fight the Idaten, as soon as they learned that they existed, they wanted to send a couple out to just take out Hayato by himself. They were tricked by Yeasley into actually fighting Rin. Rin fucking kills them instantly, and then Yeasley steals the bodies and then has them be experimented on. So at the laboratory, they experiment on both the giant wild demon body, and now they have Nickel's body, so they're like checking that out and doing experiments on that as well. And what they discover is that like they're trying to find weaknesses for demons. And they're studying like, you know, how much poison would it take to affect them? Like what actually affects them? Because they do have when they're human forms, they do have bodily functions because they are half human. So they can die from the same way humans do. They do die of old age. They just have like double the lifespan or something like that. So they live to be around 200. But their bodies are susceptible to things. Their bodies are susceptible to certain things based on like how their brain works with this like half demon, half human form. I think it's something to where like they don't feel certain things from certain chemicals. Like they're not going to feel pain or something like that. But Yeasley figures out like, well, they probably will feel pleasure because that's not really like a pain thing, I guess. I don't know if I don't know the science behind whether the two are connected or whatever, but Pisara corners him and she's going to kill him, but he keeps trying to like outsmart her with like flashbangs and like the shadows and like the fact that she doesn't know like what powers he has. And so he tricks her into like staying in this area long enough for this kind of gas to affect her. And the gas is like a very strong aphrodisiac. So he basically makes her like incredibly fucking horny. I think he like tore her clothes off at some point, like to taunt her while it was affecting her. And like she was like being affected by it. When he was like explaining what happened, she was pretty much like, just kill me. I don't want this to happen or whatever. He's like, no, I'm not going to kill you. We're going to do an experiment on you. Oh, the other thing. All the Idaten can pull out like some kind of sword from their body, but Yeasley's sword is like a fucking scalpel. I thought that was very clever. I thought that was a nice little touch. His sword isn't really a sword, it's just a little scalpel. So he pulls that out and he starts like experimenting on her body. And it's at this point too that he also explains that he has done countless experiments on humans to try to understand things and to try to like manipulate things as well. He has like killed and like experimented on like hundreds and thousands of humans. And it's like, at that point you learn like he's probably one of the most fucked up of all of the Idaten, just because he's clearly like a sociopath of some kind of like the worst degree, to where like he will literally like endanger and experiment on the humans. Whereas like the original point of the Idaten is literally just to like make sure the humans don't die out, specifically from demons, but in general so they don't die out. And so it's like weird that Yeasley would do that, but because of that, they like wrote that this is some excuse for him to like do brainwashing surgery on Pisara. It's one of the like probably lazier things of the writing, I think. It's just, all right, how do we make these demons join our side? Fuck it, I know brainwashing surgery. I'm just gonna do that now. And it's like, okay, all right, we're just gonna do this now. That happens. And then I think there was like two other demons that were fighting Hayato and Paula at the same time, which they were really just using them for training because they weren't that strong against them. And once they defeat them, they like take them over to Yeasley and then they do brainwashing surgery on them as well. So now they got like 3 demons on their side because of brainwashing surgery. How exactly does that work? How long does it last? It seemed to last permanently until it was undone, which happens like the final episode? I forget.
Yeah.
So like the brainwashing surgery just makes them fully like in their control, I guess. And they do this for like not too many other demons. They do it for Barcode and then those initial 3. And I don't really think they do it for any other demons, not that I can think of. All the other ones they just kill as soon as they can because they don't need them and they're probably evil. I don't know. What did you think of the brainwash surgery, Pisara bullshit thing.
It was definitely interesting because when they first brought it up, I thought they were going to be like zombies that kind of just didn't have a will of their own and Yeasley would give them orders and they'd follow through. But they actually do have a will and they maintain their personality. They're just kind of good guys now and they're just helping the main deities and just, you know, establishing rapport with them, and they're being sent out to do tasks, and they become likable characters in the sense that they're good guys now. And then when the brainwashing gets undone, I was like, no, I hope they don't convert back to hating the deities and being evil. But that's exactly what happens with Pissalat, or whatever the fuck her name is. And she's like, she has this insane vendetta, and she's like, oh, rip out their eyes and do all this heinous shit to them. And yeah.
Pisara was like one of my favorite characters design-wise. Personality-wise, I liked her more when she was the evil demon girl. But once they brainwashed her, I was not interested in her anymore. Maybe it's just me, but like she just got like so like generic waifu like for Yeasley. The ending too. Like, did you watch the full ending animation thing? Like, it was trying to hint that like Yeasley and Pisara were going to get married or like in love or something like that. That whole like ending animation is like a big like poppy love song thing. There's like heart emotes going all around the place. It's all like a fun-filled song, pink everywhere. And like at the very end of the animation, Pisara passes by Yeasley in the city, although you don't really see Yeasley's face until like the very last frame or something like that. They pass by each other, and then they pass by each other while she's looking at like wedding outfits in like a mirror. And the song is like a lightning bolt or something like that. It's supposed to be like a big like message about how love comes suddenly or something like that. And I'm just like, are we trying to hint that they're going to be in like some kind of relationship? And then once we get into like this whole big thing about, you know, oh, all the demons that survived are trying to give birth to others or whatever, I'm starting to think, oh, are Yeasley and Pisara going to fuck and have like a half Idaten, half demon baby? Like, is that what's going to happen here? Like, what is this? But then they undo her brainwashing surgery and she instantly like fucking dismantles him, and then they kidnap him and take him away. That's a whole part of the ending episode. There's some other things that happen in that ending episode that are like pretty big. I just want to go back to Miku for a second. With Miku, I was super surprised that, so like I can understand we're demons, we want to repopulate the species. Okay, if we need to do it in silence, we're gonna have to fuck other demon babies. Okay, I can understand that to a point. You know, the demons incest with each other to like keep their species going. I can understand that. What I don't understand is doing it when the demon babies are like really so fucking young, really young, and then making constant jokes about it. And there's literally like a scene, I think in the final episode, where you can clearly hear one of them eating Miku out, and you're like, this is not helping to repopulate the species. This is clearly just Miku just being a pedophile. What the fuck is this? Like,
yeah, like, for me, I don't know if you watched like a censored version, but Miku's on a bed, she's naked, and you can see her back, and like there's clearly like a Shota child between her legs, and you're like, well, they're not trying to apply anything that is very in your face, okay? And they like pan around the room, and there's like hordes of used tissues everywhere, and like the weird nurse chick is like in on the Shotokan too, and you're just like, I want this to stop really bad.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Because it's like it's tough because like, it's fucking awkward as fuck to ever like show even like that. Like, you can understand it from a writing perspective if their goal is to reproduce like their species and they're like these evil demons. Okay, you can understand that they are going to fuck the demon kids. You know, you can understand that that's going to happen. It's still fucking weird to have it happen, but you can understand why it's happening, I guess. There's no fucking real reason for them to be doing all the shit that they're doing unless they're just clearly fucking weird pedophile. And I guess if the goal is for you to like hate them even more so, because like to put more into perspective that like, because I guess in a way you kind of in some points want to root for the demons because like you like in some ways you're like given the impression, all right, they're just trying to keep their species alive, but there's a certain point to where it's like you have to keep in mind that they are super fucking evil still, and they don't have like any real morals at all. And their literal only goal is just repopulation and then their own self-interest, which I guess kind of is similar to like the Idaten, where like they don't really give a shit about the humans. They just give a shit about themselves, their own survivability, and like, I guess stopping the demons, but that's only really so that they can survive because the demons would clearly try to kill them. Everybody seems like they're only out for their self-interest. And I don't really understand what the point of, what is like is this just Amahara wanting to be Amahara is like the writer for Interspecies Reviewers, and this is the author. Is this like just him trying to like put in edgy like sexual content for like no real purpose other than to show that these creatures are evil again? Like, we already know that they're still evil. They had to kill to stay in hiding. They killed like this neat girl who was like getting doxxed and bullied online by people because she sucked as a healer in an MMO. This was canonically what happened. This character sucked as a healer in an MMO, so she was doxxed and like made fun of online, and Miku found out her address because of the doxing, went to her house, killed her. They stole her skin so the nurse assistant could wear it so that they can just pretend to be her online and steal her house and stuff like that. So it's like, all right, you already know she's super fucking evil. Like, you don't need to show that she's a pedophile too to show that she's evil. I don't really understand what the entirety of that needed to be there for, other than Amahara just pushing the boundaries, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, there was even like a 7-year time skip, and it's like, if you are just gonna spontaneously 7-year time skip, why don't you just like 18 or 19-year time skip so they're not literal children anymore, that like Miku's brainwashing to be like sex slaves? It's just really messed up. It just uncomfy feelings.
I don't understand. And you're also cutting to the other demon kids that are like fucking on like islands and underground areas and stuff like that. Those ones I guess more make sense because they're the same age and they're like trying to, repopulate while they're all alone because they know that like the demons are all fucked. They do find out that they can't just give birth without that other pregnancy demon Umeo. Otherwise they can't merge the human. They need a human baby and they need Umeo to like merge the demon with the human. Otherwise they come out as a wild creature that can't be controlled and attacks everything and has to be killed. They find that out pretty quickly. I think one of those couples that has that happen tries to go to Pisara to like ask for help, but they like were out of communication on like an island during the whole thing, so they didn't know what was going on, so they just thought Zobel was still there, but like a coup happened, but Pisara was still alive. They didn't realize that it was literally like the Idaten that ran it, and like that they killed them instantly. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Why are they like instantly killing them and like super evil in this scene?
So you mentioned like the kids in the islands, like, repopulating demon kind and stuff. Like, the difference between that and what Miku's doing is the scenes with the kids on the island, you don't see anything.
Right, yeah.
Like, one day it's just like there's some kissing and like one of the characters obviously has a thing for another character, and then she's pregnant and she gives birth, and you don't see any of that. But Miku is just explicit all the time, and it's like, oh man, I liked it so much more when you were like doing stuff with adults.
Yeah, like Miku, like you saw a little bit of like how she would train the animals, I guess, with like the scene with her and Giltina. She meets Giltina like after she has her episode 1 scene happen, and then they take her away into like some cage, and Miku's looking around and like going to train them for the day, and she gets her eye on Giltina because I think she like mouthed about like, the gods will like strike her down or some dumb shit like that, and she immediately is just like, all right, I'm gonna have fun with you, I'm just gonna like mess around with you because I could clearly tell like you're and it was like a pretty interesting scene to show like just how perceptive she can be, to the point where it makes total sense why she would be called the animal trainer, I guess. Because she's instantly able to like tell like what turns people on and be able to use that kind of stuff against them through like either doing it or like denying it at certain times. And when she's talking to Guillotina, she's like, I thought it was a little bit annoying that they did this with Guillotina's character where like she's like touching her and then she like asks her to stop and then she does, and then she like says, oh, I bet you're gonna think I wish you didn't stop or something like that. And it's like, it's kind of cheesy, pretty cheesy. I understand the point. Pretty fucking cheesy to just instantly make the priestess character like, oh, you didn't have to stop. And they do that kind of thing later on with like when they're escaping, and she's already making jokes about how her and the nurse assistant are gonna have to fuck their own kids and like groom them or whatever. And you're just like, why are we joking about this like casually? And then even she's like, oh, you know, I'm not against it totally. And it's like, what is going on? I don't know. Miku's a character. She happens. She's a hot character, but she does very, very questionable fucking things. Needs to... Amahara went a little too crazy with her. A little too much with her towards the end. I don't know what the fuck.
Please brainwash Miku so she doesn't like kids anymore. Can that happen in the next season, please?
Oh, God, the next season. We'll have to talk about that. But I want to talk about Dr. Obami first, okay? Because we haven't talked about the truth behind Dr. Obami. This is the YouTube clickbait title here. The truth behind Dr. Obami. Okay. Dr. Obami is shown to us first as like a robot body. And he's the leader of the demons. He's called the Demon Lord. And you're wondering, okay, so is he actually a demon? He's presenting as a robot. Could he actually be like a human, like manipulating the demons? Which I think they even say at one point. And you're just like, who is Dr. Obami? Like, what is he? Is he actually a demon? Like, where is he? What is going on? What is this guy doing? And, like, what is his goal? And you're wondering, like, who is this guy? What is, like, his secret? And you find out pretty much later on, he doesn't even really know. Because even Miku would have figured out by now if he was hiding some kind of secret. She would have figured it out by now. But the truth is, like, he just doesn't know what he is or, like, where he is or anything like that. He just knows that he can, like, exist within electronics. But he doesn't really understand who he is or fully why he's there. He has, like, some knowledge of demons and Idaten, but he's not sure why he does. And he tells Miku, like, hey, if you can figure it out, go for it. But, like, I really just don't know. I just kind of came into existence at some point. And after they brainwash Pisara and Yeasley talks to her to ask her like a couple questions, he figures out pretty quickly that what actually happened is that 800 years ago, when the demons were sealed away, they actually died in like a year. All of the demons were like trapped in the seal, just died of starvation in a year. Nothing is alive in that seal anymore from the demons. They're pretty much all probably dead. From that, they haven't opened up the seal to confirm that, but it pretty much makes sense to them that the demons have probably all died years ago from starvation, because they do die from like regular, like, they're not gods, they're just a different kind of organism species that shows up every now and then, I guess. So like they could die from starvation, and they did inside of the seal. But the thing that happened was that the demons had pretty much kept praying for somebody to save them because they were stuck in the seal, dying from starvation, that they gave birth to a demon Idaten who does not exist outside of the seal. The demon Idaten, who is Dr. Obami, is like exists inside of the seal. So he is a god, but he is inside the seal and doesn't really know that he's inside the seal, doesn't really know what his existence is. But as we've seen with characters like Prontia, what they could do is thought hacking. Like, Idaten have, like, access to some kind of magic because they're made of some weird matter that's not actually regular human matter or something like that. So because they're mostly generated by thoughts. So they have access to, like, magical abilities if they can concentrate enough. And so Dr. Obami is actually just a demon Idaten trapped within the seal who accesses the outside world through thought hacking electronics. And that's how he's able to access like surveillance footage you're normally not supposed to be able to, is because he can literally go everywhere that there's electronics. And so that's why he exists within like robotic forms. And so when the Zobel Empire invasion happens, he is like brought back by Miku eventually through like a series of like planning out when to bring him back and how he's gonna find her through like a key word that she hid and told him about, like, because she knew all this was gonna happen because she's fucking overpowered as shit, so she knows literally everything for plot reasons, I guess. But you know, so she like predicts like, all right, at this point when this event happens, this password that I gave him like years ago will be the only thing that's a search term that people can use. Nobody else will use the search term. It'll be a weird thing. I'll put it in a blog post somewhere. It'll be really awkward, but nobody will suspect. And then he'll use that to trace where I am and then take over this robot toy that I bought from the store, and then he'll be back, and then we'll be back. And that's exactly what happens. And so they figure out pretty much that this is Dr. Obame's existence. And he's a mixture actually of the demons, the thoughts of demons, and the thoughts of the Idaten that sacrifice themselves. So he actually, for some reason, I don't understand how this would happen, but for some reason his like character looks kind of like the Idaten that Rin refers to as grandfather, which I don't understand how he would look like. He literally like would have created that body himself. I don't know if he necessarily would have made it look like, I don't know, but he's apparently made of the thoughts of those Idaten that seal themselves away and the demons that were trapped in there. So it's kind of like a weird mixture of them, but he doesn't really know what his goal is other than he was prayed to save the demon like race. So he's there to try to like to keep the species going. But one thing I don't understand, and I'm not sure if this would ever get answered or if it's just like a thing you're not supposed to think about. Okay, I understand why he was able to access the outside world. How did the demons start giving birth? How did the demons come back? Because like he's the only one, or he's supposed to be the only one. And he's like not even existing outside as a physical body. He's like a robot. So how did the demons even come back and like hide among the humans? How the fuck did that happen? He clearly had to have done like some kind of weird experiments on like maybe a frozen demon like the one that they found. But like, I don't know. I guess you're probably not meant to think too much about that.
I don't think you are supposed to think about that.
Well, I try to think about these things, okay? I try. The finale involved a series of events. The episode prior, we had seen Miku going full postal, going into the middle of the city and shooting up to like let people know, hey, I'm that wanted girl. I'm here. Clearly trying to attract some attention to like bait out a response from Yeasley and all them. And so that happens, and we go into the final episode where like they're trying to find Miku after that incident happens, and Prontian just can't find her no matter what for some reason, and they're super confused. And Yeasley and Pissarra are back at the base, like also confused. And then like it turns out that it was actually Dr. Obame disguised as Miku with like a skin like thing that he was wearing, but it wasn't really Miku or something like that. And they had done all that, then switched faces to like a face of like a soldier that looks like they work at the headquarters that Yeasley and Pissarra are at. And then he does the same kind of aphrodisiac trick on Pissarra while she's in the shower, and then undoes her brainwashing surgery, I guess, because why not? Fuck it. And then after that, like, you see Pissarra going into the room with Yeasley to like talk with him, get some information about like where the others are, and then like she's clearly has her brain surgery undone, so she tries to not kill him, but like cuts off his arms and legs immediately so he can't do anything. And he tries activating some like device through his teeth where like he'll bite down and something's supposed to activate. But Dr. Obame already thought of this, I guess, because Miku probably already thought of this, I guess, and had like disabled it because electronics, I suppose. He controls them. I don't fucking know. So like he easily probably put some kind of bomb in Pissarra, but it was trying to activate it, but clearly it's not working because Dr. Obame either took the bomb out or disabled it or something. I don't know. So they kidnap Yeasley, and then I think when Corey and Paula, they're trying to like develop some kind of relationship between those two. I'm not sure why, but it's just kind of a thing that's like developing, I guess, where Corey the demon is falling for Paula the Idaten, who doesn't really give a shit, it seems like. She's just kind of like a nice big titty god who's there, so I guess whatever. So I guess when they're going back to like check on like Yeasley or something like that, or report back, because I think they were told to report back, they kidnap Paula and then undo Corey's brainwashing surgery. So now they've kidnapped both Yeasley and Paula, and they brought back I forget if they brought back Neptune or the big guy that they got there, but they undo like the brainwashing surgery on most of the demons that they had. Oh no! They still have Barcode, and they still have, I think it's
some other dude,
Neptune. So they've kidnapped those two, and they keep them in like some kind of underground torture chamber, and it almost seems like they're kind of trying to do some like experiments on them. But really, they're just trying to find like horrific ways to torture them. And meanwhile, like Miku was right when they decided to kidnap Yeasley. Without Yeasley, the other gods can't really do anything. They're all really fucking dumb and straightforward. So they couldn't really do anything unless they decided to like just destroy everything, which they could do. Nothing says they couldn't do it. They might. Rin definitely would. But Prontia is actually left. Or they didn't get to Prontia, and Prontia, if there ever is a continuation to this, Prontia would probably be the only way they have to like save Paula or Yeasley, if they're even still alive. The ending kind of makes it like hard to determine whether or not they're still alive or not, because they're like cut up so much, and like they've clearly tortured them so much, and they like leave the torture chamber in like silence, and I think they even left the door open to the point where like I'm not sure if it's supposed to imply that like those two are dead or not. I can't really tell. But
didn't like Paula say like, "Oh, it hurts or something" to like one of
Corey showed up.
Love interest.
Yeah, they showed Corey what was going on after they undid his brainwashing surgery, and he heard her say that it hurts, and he felt bad for her because he probably still had feelings for her, even though his brainwashing surgery was undone. So I guess he still kind of has feelings for her. So he might also end up being some kind of thing that saves her or whatever. But like, I don't know. They keep saying it hurts, but they'll say like any kind of injury hurts, but they don't necessarily kill them. Like getting their heart gouged out kind of hurt easily, he said, but he's not gonna die from that. So I'm not sure if necessarily what they did would have killed him, because it didn't look like they did anything to their like heads or anything like that. I don't think they cut off their heads or anything, but like it just looked like their bodies were still there, just decapitated from the arms and legs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think all of their internal organs had been like pulled out and stuff like that too.
Wait, didn't one girl try to like shove their hand up like Paula's ass or some shit like that? What the fuck was that?
Yeah, I was kind of confused about what was supposed to be happening, and then one of the other characters said like, "Oh, an anal probe is like not gonna be enough pain for you," to whatever his name is, Yeasley. And I was like, so they were trying to anal probe her? I don't get why okay. But Paula had no conception of like it was like supposed to be excruciating and like really sexually violating. Oh, yeah. Paula's just like, yo, that's kind of weird. Why you do this?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And I think like for the final shot, they show like Rin running around trying to cry out for them to be like, "Where are you guys?" Because they're like missing. And I think at some point she runs over where they're being kept at. She just doesn't know it. That point where the anime ends, that's exactly where the webcomic ends. The webcomic started back in I think 2008, and it went in hiatus in 2016. At that exact point. And the anime and the webcomic end at the same exact point. And it's been a hiatus for 5 years. The manga started in like 2018 with the Dragon Maid creator doing the art for it, I believe. So, because I don't know if you've taken a look at the webcomic yet, Amahara's art is not at all good. it's there to tell the story, at least, but he's clearly not an artist. He was clearly just trying to tell some kind of story that he thought of and just doing it. And they probably put it on hiatus so that they could restart it through the manga with the manga art by the Dragon Maid artist, which makes it look a lot better. But I'm not sure. The manga stops at, I think, a part of the Zobel invasion, but it's not at all where the at least not what's been translated. I don't know how much hasn't been translated, but of the ones that have been translated, it only goes up to where the Zobel invasion is at, or just about ends, I think. So we haven't even gotten to like the stuff that happens after the invasion. So like I'm not sure what's going to happen here. I'm not sure if the anime would ever get a season 2. Or, like, the webcomic's clearly not continuing. The webcomic says it's on hiatus, and the webcomic's clearly not coming back because now they have the manga. So what's probably happening is that they're going to continue the manga where the webcomic went off, and maybe they'll continue the story from there. But the anime, I don't know what's going to happen there. I have no idea. I don't know if it would ever come back. Nobody really watched this. So, because everybody was so turned off by, like I said, the visuals of the first episode, like nobody really watched this. And even when you do, some of like the events are memorable, some of the characters are memorable, but some of the people don't like this because there's not a lot of like character growth that happens too much. Because there's not really, I think the only one that does really have some kind of character growth is like Giltina, and even that's like not much. Everybody else just kind of stays the characters they were. I don't know.
I mean, Rin has an existential crisis for a while. That counts.
Oh yeah, when she finds out that like the demon lord dude looks like her grandfather from the Idaten or whatever, and she doesn't think to like ask easily, hey, what the fuck was that? She just like goes silent. But then like she snaps out of it and she goes back to like her old self though, so I'm not really, I mean, I guess she like asks Hayato what's going on, so I guess that's her more giving a shit, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like much. It's been described by some people as like just like a popcorn battle shonen flick, which I guess I could see. I had a fun time with it still overall, but like I could like this is not a show that like I could see most people getting into, especially with the bad first impression the first episode gives. But I like it. I like the show. I like a lot of the like visuals. I like a lot of the characters. I like the interest with the demons. Like the idea of the demons being back and like all their evil shit. I like the aesthetic we have going on with them, but like I don't know, story wise there's like a lot of backstory stuff that's interesting, but not so much with the actual like I don't know, the like rules of things going on with some of the like Idaten mechanics. Like they try to explain some parts of like how the Idaten work, but the anime understands that like this is not really interesting to a lot of people, so they do like a fast forward effect during some explanation, which I thought was like a nice little touch to be like, hey, you're not meant to really focus too much on this. These are things that are there, but like you don't really have to focus. We're just gonna fast forward through that, which I think is cool. There was a part that I was going to mention, but now I can't remember. You talk.
Oh man, what to even talk about? I'm surprised it didn't blow up at least a little bit more. I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know. I guess off the back of like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where it has that really interesting abstract art style, I would think the art style would be enough to kind of draw people in through curiosity.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. And it's like this being written by the Interspecies Reviewers writer and done by the Dragon Maid author by themselves, like those aren't enough for people to get into it because it doesn't really, it's, I don't know. The one thing I do want to say is this is like the anime director debut of the Seimei Kirokoro was the anime director. He had done like anime episode direction before, but he'd never like been the director for like the entire project before, I don't think. So this is like an interesting like first entry for him, like a really nice debut by him. And then they also did the direction for the opening as well. So I feel like this was a really good taste of the kind of stuff that you're going to get from this director in the future. And that alone makes me super interested in what he's going to work on in the future. That's what I think.
Some good points there.
Yeah, he'd worked on stuff before from like March Comes In Like a Lion, and I think he's clearly taking inspiration from like Mob Psycho. So like interesting kind of style. I don't think like this weird color theory stuff was like intent. Like this is not something I don't think the color theory thing was meant for this kind of series. I think this is something that he just wanted to try out and see how that looks. And I feel like if that's the case, then we're probably going to see a lot of cool stuff like that in the future from his kind of works. I attribute a lot of the like animation quality being like awesome and the like fight scenes being great, just being the fact that this is from Studio MAPPA. I'm not sure how this would have gone if this was not done by MAPPA. I'm not sure how this would have gone at all. Probably would have gone in a very different direction. Probably would have hated this. But here, it kind of like keeps the interest and aesthetic. Like the writing is like of a certain interest, and the aesthetic of the visuals is like done well enough here to like keep me interested in it. I can understand why people were turned off from the show or weren't interested at all in the show, but like I don't know, for me it kind of ticks the right boxes in terms of like interest and style. So would you recommend the Idaten Deities Know Only of Peace?
Yes, but I would recommend it to seasoned anime viewers. I wouldn't recommend it if you are just getting into anime.
Okay. I probably would be the same. Like, this is not something to where, like, if you just watch Naruto, maybe you should try out this. I would not recommend jumping from, like My Hero to this. These are, like... this is clearly like something for a more experienced, not necessarily even battle shonen person, more experienced, like mature anime viewer. Like maybe if you've seen like Ghost in the Shell or something like that, like if you're at that point to where like you can understand and watch those more adult shows, and then you like understand that like more teenage like battle shonen things exist, and want to experience something like that, but it's not like too childish, this would definitely be it. This is definitely like a show that looks and sometimes might feel like a generic like younger battle shonen, but it's in reality it's a very, very dark, mature show with some deep themes. Some of which are explored well, others aren't so much yet, but could be in the future, of a sequel that, honestly, I'm not sure is going to happen, but you never know. So if you want to watch a show like that, like a show that looks like a young battle shonen, but it has this feel of like seinen and maturity, then this is definitely it. But I think the main warnings would be, don't try to fall down the rabbit hole of like choosing who to root for, or just kind of root for whoever you think is cool at the time, I guess, because that'll make your life easier than try to like morally justify like any of the actions of the characters. And then don't expect this to ever get finished. That's, I think, my main thing right now. I don't expect this series to ever get finished. Not even just in anime form. I don't expect the manga to get finished either. The webcomic's definitely not going to be continued. The manga's probably going to continue where the webcomic left off, but I don't think it's going to at all like have a decent conclusion. And I seriously doubt we'll ever get a season 2 of this show. So go into that with those concerns, I'd say. So, but you're in for a fun time, at least visually, and with like the demon side especially is like super, super interesting in my mind. And some of the backstory with some of the areas and characters are super cool too. So yeah, I'd still overall recommend it, but I can understand why. I guess if you watch the first 2 episodes, that'll pretty much tell you whether or not you should continue with the whole thing. Because if you're not into it by the end of the 2nd episode, you're probably not going to be into it at all.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's definitely unfortunate that you can't just tell them to watch the first episode and you'll be interested, because most of the first episode is very generic. And you have to watch the 2nd episode to really find out whether or not you'd be interested. And even then, like, the fight scene between, like, the Idaten and the half-demon people doesn't actually happen until the third episode when Nickel shows up and fights Rin. Like, that's the point where you get to see that part of it, but if you're not really into it by the end of the second episode, you're probably not gonna give a shit at all. So, yeah, that was the Idaten No Only a Piece. What score did you give it? Did you give it a score? Do you give things scores?
No, I don't tend to give things scores.
I give things.
I'm sorry.
I do. I give things scores, and like I usually do it out of 10. I think at first I had said it was a 10 out of 10, but that was like I think at around like episode 10. I did not get to the next episode where we're having Miku doing this random like pedophilia shit out of nowhere, and that last episode where we're building up a whole bunch of stuff, like the Guiltinas, the two Guiltinas are doing some weird things where they want everyone to be at peace, but like they're like explained that like if you want to do that, then you're going to have to sacrifice a whole bunch of humans for the demons to survive. So like it's either we kill them or don't, and then they're praying for fallen demons or something like that. I don't remember. There's some weirdness, and then there's also the concern with like I don't think this will ever have a continuation. I was not a huge fan of the cliffhanger stuff that we had going on with the last episode. And then when I think back to some of the like writings and the characters, I'd probably more put it at like an 8 out of 10 for me. Maybe a 9, but probably more likely 8. Recency bias would probably have me say it's 9, but it's probably more likely an 8 for me.
Yeah, I agree with that roughly. I'm between 7 and 8.
Yeah. Some people, I was reading some reviews of this, other people's reviews. Some people really fucking hated this. I didn't understand where all the hate came from. I understood people on 4chan were upset because of the color theory stuff, because it does shift colors like a lot in seemingly like random ways. I thought that was interesting, but again, that's probably just ignorance. But like a lot of people fucking hated that, I guess. And then like other people like really, really were not happy at all with like how the writing went and how like some of the characters reacted to certain things. Naturally, a lot of people were also very turned off by the opening rape scene, and then also the actions of Miku later on in the series, and how like some of the sexual content, like some people were upset that it was a little censored. Some people were upset that like it was there at all because it felt super awkward when it was there. Some of them felt, I don't know. I feel like there's enough of like a balance with like a lot of what it's trying to show up until the end where like for some reason we just want to keep showing Miku being a pedophile for no fucking reason. But I don't know. I remember like once we started showing off the demons fucking and reproducing, like all the comments were like, I'm just here to watch demons fuck, that's all. And I'm like, oh jeez. But yeah, that's it. That's the Idaten Deities No Only a Piece. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Very insightful.
Thank you. Well articulated podcast. I'm sure I'll watch this back and go, why did I say that? I sound so dumb.
No, that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We talked about like so much about this show. I can't really. I'm trying to go through my notes to make sure we didn't forget anything that I want to talk about. No, I guess like the only thing is like who are you meant to root for in the show? And the answer is kind of nobody, I guess. You're just meant to have fun with like what's going on. I guess you're rooting for
Paula Paula's the only safe bet if you want to root for someone. Like, she's so bland.
And it's mostly because she's like sweet, innocent, just doesn't involve herself in whatever the fuck's going on unless he easily like tells her to do it. Like, hey, we're gonna convince Sarah Bell that we're gods. Just sprout some wings and just deflect bullets or something. I don't know. Just exist. I don't know. Because like the demons, in a way, they're fighting for their survival. On the other hand, they're doing it without any regard for humans or morals, and will literally like fuck kids to do it. It's like, okay, that's all right. Idaten, they're like, all right, we're here to help the humans make sure they live, but also if I don't exactly give a shit, I'll like kill all of the humans in this one empire because some demons are hiding there. I don't really care. Like, I'll kill them all. Is like Rin's idea with that. Yeezy's just like, I'll just use them for experiments, lol. I just want control and all that. I just want knowledge and control, and I don't care how I have to get it. And Hayato's like, I just want power. He doesn't explicitly like want to fight humans. He just wants to fight things stronger than him. So he's like not really for or against anything. Like, all the Idaten don't really give a shit. They just don't give a shit. The demons give a shit in like an evil way. They like want to cause chaos. Mostly so that they can keep their species going, but mostly because they just want to cause chaos. Alright, so that's, I think, pretty much everything that we could talk about it. I mean, there might be some things I'm forgetting about, but for the most part, those are like the main things that I want to talk about. As the Idaten Deities know only a piece, I enjoyed it for the most part, and you kind of enjoyed it for the most part. You wouldn't recommend it to people that are new to anime. I definitely wouldn't either. I think it's an experience either way. Watch at least the first 2 episodes if you are going to attempt it at all, is what I say. And that's about it.
Agreed.
Yeah, and that's about it. So that's the show. This was a thing. It happened. Would you like to shout yourself out?
I'm Denri, self-explanatory.
All right. Fair enough. I didn't know if you like want to shout out to Twitter or YouTube or something like that. Are you doing YouTube stuff again, or are you still waiting on that?
I finally got my outro made. But I just need someone that can like consistently edit for me, really. And that's like the biggest holdup, where it's like, okay, everything's in place, but now the biggest issue is just, how do I make videos if I cannot make videos?
Right. Yeah. All right, and you guys all know me. I'm Wolfborg. You're here on my channel. You know who I am. But if you don't, hit the subscribe button. You better leave a comment. If you watch Idaten Deities, let us know. Tell us your thoughts. If you agreed or disagreed with any of our points, I'm sure you can leave it there, and if you're shit-talking me, I will disregard and or put you on blast on twitter.com, so you can look at that there if you do say something stupid. Otherwise, you'll get a thanks for watching, or something to that effect. That's about it. I can't really think of anything else. I will talk to you all later.